Hi, I'm Diego and this is my Global Issue Project video. This is Venezuela. Venezuela is the richest country in South America. It had the largest oil reserves and manufacturers in the world. Venezuela's democratic government was praised, adored, and loved worldwide. Or was all these things. Venezuela now is only a feeble version of its former self. Before things went south, however, the situation wasn't so bad. Hugo Chavez was the leader of the Socialist Party. And this is Hugo Chavez. And he was elected president in 1999. He was removed for a short time because of a military revolt, but was brought back by his vice president. Now, Hugo Chavez was a controversial president due to the poorer Venezuelans, such as the working class, supporting Chavez, and the higher class not supporting him. Hugo Chavez moved the minds of the poor Venezuelans, which make up 82% of Venezuela's population, with his populist and socialist campaign, and with that, he won the election. The surge in oil prices was a key period during his presidency. The high prices of oil allowed the heavily oil-dependent economy to thrive. During the oil price surge, Chavez spent billions on social welfare programs to improve food subsidies, improved education system and enrollment, improved healthcare, and reduced poverty by more than 50%. These social programs, however, not only benefited the poor, but also himself. Chavez had set the economy to keep himself in power. Chavez needed to keep these millions of poor Venezuelans happy in order to remain in power. However, his presidency was an overall failure due to his failure in moving Venezuela's oil-reliant economy away from oil. On his death, Nicolas Maduro, this is Nicolas Maduro, on his death, Nicolas Maduro took over as president, and he was elected after Chavez. In his campaign, he would often call himself the son of Chavez, and he promised to live up to Chavez's legacy. Despite all of this, he only won by a small margin. During Maduro's presidency, oil prices took a nosedive, and due to the social welfare programs, the lack of money to support them, increased wages, and the printing of more money, the inflation rates skyrocketed. In April 2019, Venezuela was the #1 country in the world for the highest inflation rate. It had an inflation rate of 282,972.8%. Second place is an African country called Zimbabwe, and it had an inflation rate of 175.66%. The difference between first and second is obvious enough to know that Venezuela is in trouble. The gross domestic product, also known as the economic activity in a country, went down by 35%, which is a steeper drop than the United States experienced during the Great Depression. Now, returning to the economic system, like Chavez, Maduro manipulated the economic system to keep himself in power. Only it was not being used to benefit the poor by social welfare programs. The currency system Maduro adopted is complicated. The Venezuela currency, the bolivar, was set to 10 bolivars per United States dollar, but only his associates had access to this rate. The average citizen's currency is 12,163 per United States dollar. The military is also benefiting from this economic crisis. In 2016, the military gained control over the food supply and imported it to the black market, where it will be sold at Maduro's associates' rate for an enormous profit. This means that Maduro's associates and allies would have a vastly different living standard than the average Venezuelan. Now jumping into food. Because the lack of money in local businesses and supermarkets, many had to close, and citizens would have to wait in line for hours only to enter a store and find nothing. The lack of food, water, and medicine led to many Venezuelans losing weight. In fact, 70% of Venezuelans lost an average of 20 pounds. The shortage of food has also led to an increase of susceptibility to diseases such as measles and diphtheria. 8,000 health clinics have also closed due to Chavez's social welfare programs shutting down, preventing the public from getting a vaccine that could have easily prevented this disease, or the diseases. The shortage of living supplies was so bad that millions of Venezuelans left their home and migrated to the neighboring countries. Millions of Venezuelans flooded Colombia, Peru, Brazil, and Ecuador. Colombia roughly accepted 1 million Venezuelan refugees, and Peru and Ecuador had to temporarily shut down their borders because the immigration officials were being overwhelmed. The unofficial count of Venezuelans that migrated was 8 million. This is 25% of the Venezuelans' population. Now, to conclude, there are two viewpoints. One is that socialism is the way to earn success in Venezuela. The other viewpoint is that socialism is the cause of Venezuela's crisis. Socialism, like its sibling communism, relies heavily on the participation of laborers. However, the collapse of the Soviet Union is a brilliant example of how socialism does not work. Venezuela is not yet completely submerged and still has hope in the form of Juan Guaido. This is him. Juan Guaido is a self-proclaimed president of Venezuela and promises to bring the country back to its former glory. He has plans to reboot the economy by anchoring the exchange rate to slow inflation, recapitalizing banks, and reactivating capital markets, dismantling present systems of state control and regulation, and providing social protection programs. Sound familiar? He also has plans to reinstate the free market and emphasizes that the state and democracy should be placed under the people's service and promote competition and entrepreneurs to rise. Juan Guaido's vision sounds alike Venezuela's that has already been, but he is Venezuela's only hope of a peaceful revolution instead of a brutal and violent war. Now, for my fun activity, I wanted to pass out these search word puzzles. What I would do is I would have them complete it, and then I would call on someone to say a word that they found, and then I would talk about that for a while, and then I would call on someone else. They would say a different word, and I would talk about that topic too, and it would go on until all the words were finished. And that's the end of my global issue project. I hope you enjoyed it.